We are live. Oh my gosh.
Maybe? Are we live?
It says live.
Okay, now we're live.
Can you see us?
We are not tech savvy.
This is not happening fast enough.
All right, who's joining us here? I need somebody to comment or like or something so that we can see that we're live. I think we're live.
We're
I don't
gonna
know why
go
this
with
is
it.
so difficult. Hello, anybody following us? All right, hold on. I'm gonna message my husband because he was gonna watch us. He said he couldn't find it. Oh, he said he found it.
Now we're live. We are live.
One of these days it's just gonna happen and it's gonna flow and it's gonna be all great. One of these days.
One of these days.
Oh, we don't have any viewers yet, so comment on our live. Okay. So we're seeing the red that says we're live.
We got people messaging saying, "Where are you?" We're here.
We're gonna get this figured out sooner or later. Maybe because it's been so long. We apologize. We've had such a lapse in our lives. Sometimes family things come up. We gotta make our priorities. All right. I don't know.
We're just gonna go for it.
Okay. Well, hopefully this is recording.
Yeah. All right. So here we go.
All right. Ani bonjour, and didn't we magano? Hello, all my relatives. We are history keepers, ganawenjigewikweg. Christine.
Penny.
Yeah, we're just gonna kind of wing it today. We're gonna start with maybe one of our files.
Sure.
We have Sophie Ojibwe. So she is married to our, how did we figure this out? She is our fourth great grandfather's brother's wife.
So she's our fourth great aunt.
Fourth great aunt. Yep.
Ojibwe.
Let's say Jay commented on our things, but we're not seeing it.
So, but he can see it
How did we get
live.
that?
So,
See it, I found July.
okay, good. Well, as long as they can see it, it's not working on our end. I don't know what we're reading on this one, if we were gonna do
Okay,
anything,
so
but
it's one
that's
viewer
just what
now.
we found.
So somebody found us. Okay.
Okay, anyway, so the Ojibwe is what we were reading before, which
So
is,
the Ojibwe last name.
but we don't have anything. I think that was just you and I talking.
Okay.
So we're gonna go that way,
You want to go this way instead of that one?
unless you want
this
us to
the
talk.
Ojibwe one?
This is the Ojibwe one.
Okay. So this is dated back from like 1934. So we got this file from the Chicago Archives. So we've done a lot of work down there, collecting ancestry files. I think we talked about this before. So Mount Pleasant School was in the process of shutting down, and they were doing a lot of the intake for students who were going to be going to other boarding schools, or some of them went to like a private or a public school just until they could transfer them to Holy Childhood. So that's where our families all went to, was actually Holy Childhood. But I think we might have had other relatives in Mount Pleasant, and that's where we're kind of hitting roadblocks on getting those records. So this Ojibwe, again, it's our fourth great grandfather's brother, married in Ojibwe. The last name's Ojibwe, and he's writing to the government because they're not getting the care that they need or support that they need to take care of their families. And here they're talking about, because of the closing of Mount Pleasant School, their funds were cut because of the appropriation for Indian education, but it's not in line with their policy because they're doing away with segregated education, is what they're claiming. So they want all Indians to go to public schools. Let's see. It's also talking about if families aren't able to care for their kids or have the funds to do so, that they're going to send them to foster care rather than an institution. Like, that's going to be any better.
Mm-hmm.
You're still disconnecting from the culture, from the language, from their traditional ways. So that's quite frustrating. Yeah, they're talking about Mount Pleasant isn't accepting students. They're in the process of shutting down. They're looking for funds. They're talking about the foster care system.
So here's more. originally how this started was George Ojibwe wrote a letter to the Office of Indian Affairs. And what I don't understand is he is writing from Cleaner Life Insurance Company. So I don't know if he's just doing that from a business aspect or if he's doing it from a personal aspect or both.
Or to try to be like, I'm a person of priority because I have a great job.
Yeah. So just in part, I'm going to read a couple sentences in here. So I'll skip over this. I have read some and have gone over it very thoroughly. And if you have gone as far as you state you have in the way of welfare for interest of the Indians in the state of Michigan, you now have a good beginning. But according to past work in the state, there have been a great many good intentions of helping the Indians, but they have not been carried out as outlined. And I sincerely hope that the social worker who is about to take over the work for the state of Michigan will improve on the work done in the past. I will do everything in my power to render to her information that may lead to improved welfare, particularly to the Indians in the Upper Peninsula. I personally know some families in Chippewa County whose children have not attended school of any kind as of yet. I realize and agree with you that it takes a long time to carry out a program and that would be beneficial in every way. If there's anything I can do to help in any way, command me. So thank you very much indeed for your reply to my letter, George Ojibwe. And what Christine has is they wrote him a few times regarding that. So, yeah.
And their excuses for not being able to help is they're saying the cost of school books, they're saying transportation to and from reservations for students isn't always accessible, right? Because some of our family came from Sugar Island, so that caused a barrier. And I'm sure before the Mackinac Bridge was built, that was another barrier to get kids to and from different schools that they were wanting them to attend to. And I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say about the Ojibways.
No, not really. It just is, I think this is, and if anyone has any information on this that can help us kind of dissect it, because it's interesting that in, what year did the schools close?
Mid-1930s.
Okay, so this is in 1934. Then there's a transition for these kids. So really trying to find help, because originally a lot of these kids went to school and they were fed and clothed, you know, two good things that could have happened. So then when that goes away, what then occurs? You know, what happens then? I don't know.
Well, and then if families weren't able to provide the care that their kids needed, they were sent to foster care. Not other Indian families. They weren't in, you know, they didn't have that language and support and culture anymore then.
Right.
So that these letters came from the United States Department of Interior, Office of Indian Affairs. So they're the ones who wrote to George Ojibwe. So you can see that these families are reaching out and asking for help. And other than taking their kids and putting them in institutions where they have no connection to their family and their ways, they're not really giving them another alternative, right? And I think that's what led to a lot of kids going to these schools. Families didn't really have a choice. It's like, it's not a good school, but they're getting fed, right? Well, were they getting fed though? I mean, there's a lot of stories of kids being starved, right?
Right.
Oh, it's a lot. If you're new to our page, it might be beneficial after this live to go back and listen to our other ones. We gave a lot of background information about the work that we do and what led to these boarding schools before we actually jumped into sharing some of these records. So if you're feeling a little bit lost, it's okay. Feel free to still follow us along and then go back and watch some of our other lives that talks a little bit more into detail about some of these records that we've got. Yeah, so the other one we got, this one is from Lewis Williams. We were just looking at her ancestry too, right?
Mrs. Lewis Williams.
Mrs. Lewis Williams.
So she is Amanda Gilbert, so Williams and Joseph are on our grandmother's side.
Yep.
But some of the Williams brothers married the Joseph girls, and some of the Joseph girls married
But, yep, they're
in different,
interconnected, yep.
in different generations,
Mhm.
like uncle, aunts type weirdness. So, we were just laughing about it a little
Yeah.
bit prior, trying to
And I
figure
think,
out.
yeah, and we have to think about too, the way that marriages worked within different tribal nations too. The main rule was that you can't marry within your clan. And
Mhm.
so it wasn't uncommon that you were married to a relative to some extent, but it just wasn't considered bad as long as it wasn't within your same clan that you were in. So
Right.
it's kind of confusing, like we're following this, and we're like, wait a minute, that person's related to this person but married this person, and they're both related. And like on our grandpa's side, it's like his dad's grandmother is his wife's aunt because her dad and his grandma are the brother and sister. We're like, whoa, wait a minute, this is just way too much, and it's hard to follow. We go over this a lot of times, and we're just like, wait a minute, it's kind of crazy. But anyway, so this letter, she wrote twice. The first one, oh, we have it on the computer. This is the first letter that she wrote in 1938, and then she wrote a second one in like 1943. I guess it wasn't common for Indians to have twins. At least this is what it's saying in the letter. So she wrote to the president, and the president at the time is to Roosevelt. So I'll just read what the letter says. It gives you a little picture into what life was like during these times.
Mhm.
So this is in Hale, Michigan, and she writes, Dear President Roosevelt, I've been waiting to write you, but I kept putting it off. I am an Indian mother of 4 children. I have twin boys, age of 6 right now. They just started school this year, and 2 girls, 1 8 and a baby who's almost 2. I was born in Michigan, also my husband, also my mother and father. But what I want to tell you, some of my white friends from Ohio told me to write to you about my twin boys because they are the only Indian twins in Michigan, and that I might get a prize. So here they're trying to get funds to help their family. We've been married now for 11 years and always lived here in Hale, Michigan, in Iosco County. My husband works on WPA, I'm not sure what those initials stand for, and just about making a living. We have no money saved, not a penny, or any money coming in any other way. Sometimes we have to go without food. I wish my husband had a good job and made a better living for us. I love my children, would like to live like the white folks. They have nice homes and nice cars and good clothes. I love all my white friends here. They are good to me, but I wish a good time would come. We own 2 lots and the house is old and shabby. My husband's grandfather owned it before he died. He was the chief here among the Indians. And that chief that's one of the Williams, right?
Sadney Williams.
Yep.
Yep.
We had real Indian beaded clothes, but one white man won't let us have them. If we had the money, we would go in law and get them. They're worth $100, maybe $50, but my husband would like to keep that for himself. But seems to me that Indians always get beat some way. But that doesn't bother me, only I wish he would make a better living and get out of debt so we cannot make a go. I wish we had a better farm so we could have milk and eggs and better seed, other things, so we won't have to go without food like we do now. Well, I think I must close now. Can you help us out in some way? A good job for my husband or something. I am sending the picture of my twin boys. We are all full-blooded Indians, born here in Michigan. My boys' names are Leon Williams and Lee Williams. Their Indian name is Little Thunder and Thundercloud. So now you know which is which. So I hope I'll hear from you soon because I know you're a good friend to everybody and we all love you and your wife. Good luck and God bless, and you will be waiting. You will be waiting for an early reply. And then she gives her address. And then so later on, like 1943, so that's about 5 years later, she actually has another set of twins. So she has the twin boys, then she has the twin girls, and now she's really scrambling for how to make ends meet. So she writes the president again. So that gives you a little better idea of just how bad things are or were at that time, that you're actually writing to the president of the United States to get help for your family. Like that seems pretty dire. and sad that they were pushed off their reservations, off their traditional lands, and set to areas where it wasn't good farming, they didn't have the means to get by, they're living in these shacks. And so you can kind of understand why some families not agreed, I don't like that word agreed, but felt they didn't have any other choice but their kids to go to these Indian boarding schools where at least they have clothes, supposedly get food, get an education. At least that's how they thought things were going to be. They obviously didn't understand the extent of how the kids were going to get treated in these schools.
Yeah.
But when you're living in those situations, I mean, you at least want them to live, right? And
Right.
that was their chance.
Well, I think too that a lot of, she makes some remarks about some Indians, like in her second letters, about some Indians getting some land and other Indians not getting land. And I think what she didn't understand at the time, and we understand through, reading history, is that the United States gave allotments of land to Indians, to some Indians, and said, and it wasn't very fertile land, it was kind of the crap of the crap, and said, you have 5 years to establish some kind of moneymaker or some kind of field of vegetable or fruit or whatever. And if they couldn't sustain themselves within that 5 years, the government took the land back. So I think in part, that's kind of what she was referring to. Wouldn't you think in,
Yeah.
in some of this,
Yeah.
like,
Is this a second letter?
yeah, so this is the second letter. And she says, I once wrote to you about my twin boys. I'm writing again, where my husband is working an odd job, which don't hardly keep us. And this is what I would like to ask you once more. Why don't we Indians all get better homes or farms like other Indians out west? The Indian in Michigan don't get those things like money from government every month. And I think that was the allotment in some of those treaties that were signed, saying, hey, we're going to disperse this amount of money to these reservations, but not recognize these other tribes. And, I think
The allotments and the payments that they were getting were obviously not enough to sustain their families, but yet they still took the land, basically.
Right. So here she is asking again, we're full-blooded American Indian, born in Michigan. Why are we not getting what they're getting out west?
And then to have their white neighbors also, right? Seeing them living well, finding good jobs, they're having that opportunity that they weren't afforded to, right?
Right. She also notes in here too, write and tell me how to get a good farm and livestock to start on a good job. Again, reiterating that she's full-blooded American Indians. Here you can find their records. Here's my children's dates of birth, my children's names. She says, I read so much about and hear about you helping the poor, so why not my man? He's a good worker. We don't drink or smoke. But I would like a good home and lots of food. I know how to take care of a good home. So she's really pretty much begging for a life that we are owed, in essence. I mean, really. And then I think this is what really kind of hits us where it hurts. She says, I love all my white friends here. Almost as if she's kind of trying to gain some acceptance into a white man's world, where this letter, remember, is to the President of the United States, and she's saying, hey, I'm full-blooded American Indian, but I love all my white friends. So I think that she has a little, what do you call it? I won't even know what to call it. I'm Indian, but I'm not proud to be Indian. I'm proud to like white people. I
Like
don't
she's
know.
trying to be friendly and get along with everyone, but it's hard watching other people succeed knowing that you're struggling so much too.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
We'd also like to know, like, what do you all want to know? I know we have a lot of followers who aren't just family or members of a tribal nation, but perhaps joined our group to find out, like, what can we do to understand indigenous cultures or become an ally, right? Because an allyship is not something like, you don't call yourself an ally. Other people from these groups call you an ally because of the work that you do and the understandings that you work towards that, right? So I guess we just want to know, like, how can we best support people who are following us? Again, we're in the very beginning stages. Ooh, we should grab our sweatshirt.
Oh,
We
yes.
might be doing some fundraising eventually. We're kind of getting to that point where we're getting more established, and with summer coming, we're able to travel more. You don't really want to be traveling to Michigan in the
No.
winter.
The
and I-
Mackinac Bridge is still closed.
Right, because of the ice, right? So we ain't trying to travel through that. So we started a logo. I think you got to get a little bit closer. So History Keepers, established 2024, ganawenjigewikweg underneath there. So we're already seeing things that we need to improve on. So this was like our trial run. We bought a heat press and we bought sweatshirts. It's cheaper that way for us to be able to make the shirts and then send them out to any family or people supporting our cause. And we're realizing after we had these made that some of the print was a little bit too small.
Yeah.
We need to outline the red because we really want that red to stand out and pop, and it's hard to see like even on the gray. The quality of the sweatshirts are amazing. It's soft, they're comfortable. It's the Glydian band, I think, is the company that we're using for that. And the iron-ons are, I mean, we just send them our image and the print came out beautiful. We just have to make some of the letters pop a little bit so they're easier to see.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's
Penny, where to
pretty.
get the image, yeah. So we just made these right now for ourselves so that when we are traveling and going to different places and talking about the work that we're doing, we seem more like legit, right? That we're not just two people with no understanding of our culture or understandings and just trying to get information for, I don't know, unlawful reasons, who knows?
Yeah.
I think when we went to Gaylord Diocese, they were very much questioning us, even though we had our uncle who was at the boarding school.
Right.
But I feel like they wanted to tell us things, but they didn't. So like she brings in this big black book, which we're still trying to find out how we can get a copy because they wouldn't sell us one, which I still don't understand why. But then she's like, I'm gonna set this here while I go get something.
Yeah, so
So that's
we're
what
like-
Penny's like, taking pictures really quick and
Yeah.
trying to get to the next one, right?
Right.
And that's when we realized that, holy crap, this was the records of the students who actually attended Mount Pleasant. And we were starting to find some of these other names. And even an elder that I worked with last summer from our tribe, he knew his family went away somewhere but didn't know where, and we saw one of the names in there. So those are the records we don't have. All the records that we're getting from Chicago say it's Mount Pleasant, but it's actually not. They're the ones that did the intake before they were shutting down. And then again, our family was going to all these different schools, not just Holy Childhood. There was like a holding period while they were transitioning. So it's like, where are these records? We know from looking at Carlisle records, they're public records, anybody can go in and see them. There's pictures of students who attended, and Carlisle started in the mid to late 1800s. So if they're taking photos then, they have photos in these schools. And,
yeah.
and Gaylord Diocese are trying to tell us that, oh, we don't keep those, or we didn't have the equipment or whatever at that time to take pictures, or we haven't found any. But yet when we talk to another guy from Holy Childhood Church, right? We went to that church where the grounds of the Holy Childhood Indian Boarding School were. He said, well, they're all on film. We have to go through them yet. But there definitely isn't any kind of an urgency to get us those pictures. I think
Yeah,
they started
they're like
in
really good pictures too, and I think we showed some
Yeah,
of
we
them
showed 'em
before.
a
you
couple
know?
times. We'll show them again.
Yeah.
Let's see what the earliest was. 1950.
1938.
It's like, oh, look at, they get to go to the apple orchard and pick and eat all the apples. And you know that didn't happen because Grandma talks about, or Aunt Lil talked about getting slapped for stealing an apple. 1938.
Yeah.
And our family was there in the 1930s and 40s. So if you can print a postcard from a picture of that time, where's all the other pictures and why aren't they getting shared with us?
1883.
So there are photos.
Yeah.
So somewhere, somebody is housing all of these, and we're going to continue to fight to find them.
1893.
Oh, here's another one, 1913. So this is Holy Childhood. And where that steeple is, right next to it, so in between those two buildings was the graveyard, because what school doesn't have a graveyard? Gross.
Mm-hmm.
But that's paved over now. And the church claims that these kids were moved up to this, I forgot the name of the cemetery, it was like up a hill.
Yeah.
And we went there and we talked to the groundskeeper, and they're just like, there's a small grave that has a few kind of together, but there's not the amount of students who died at the school. I think there was other records we found, over like 250 some deaths were reported. So where are they? Hello, Kate. Oh, I see Jay's on too. So yeah, we know there's pictures.
Yeah.
We want to find out, how do we get our family's pictures. We know every child who was brought in had their picture taken. There's a record somewhere. We know that even from looking at the Carlisle records, they had pictures.
Yeah.
So why are they hiding them? Why aren't they sharing them? Like, look at their beds, all close together. That looks comfy, huh? Look at that. Even shows that they get a little doll. I feel like there was probably 2 dolls in the entire institution.
Yeah.
And they're like posing to make it seem like you can even tell this one girl has like a smile, but the other girl's like, there's no way I'm smiling. This is not a real, like, it's like they're meant to make it look like they're having a good time there. And everybody knows they're not having a good time there at all. So
Yeah.
our search continues. I'm hoping, which my friends, yes. I'm hoping this summer, I graduate in May with my master's.
Woohoo!
I'm taking the summer off. I'm not even going to start looking for a job. I really want to go back to Gaylord and go back to Holy Childhood and keep searching for these records.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit with some of the staff at, was it Little Traverse Band?
Yep.
When I took my Uncle Francis for a second interview with the National Native American Indian Boarding School Healing Coalition. And it sounds like they have a lot more access, but even they hadn't seen that book. And Gaylord Diocese is saying that they gave them to everybody, but all the tribes anyway, right? But we don't have access to that, and I don't understand why they're not sharing it with us. Like, we offered to pay for it, and they said we have to talk to our tribe about it, but we've talked to so many different people in our tribe. Our enrollment department has been phenomenal. I can't speak.
Phenomenal. Yep.
After 7 p.m. on a Friday night. Forget about my speech here.
Right.
They've helped us out a lot, and hopefully we can continue making those connections with our tribe and other tribes in that area to find out, like, where can we get these records, who's housing them. We've even heard stories that, they're burnt, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a fire and we
There was a
lost all
fire.
those records.
There's a lot of fires.
But how does Chicago have them
Right.
then, when the places where they actually were all of a sudden claim that they don't?
Right. A lot of these records, though, as we look into them, are affiliated with the social services departments in each county in the state of Michigan. And it baffles me that there are no direct paths to get this information. So I just don't understand. So even if, let's just say that the school burned and all the records, went with them, they're still in the county records. They're still there. When we pull up any one of these records, it is, the state of Michigan, and it's not just the school. It is the state and all the counties affiliated with them, and they're communicating back and forth. And that's how, the social services departments in each one of these counties reached out to these schools and said, hey, we've got some Indian children in the woods over here, so let's go get them. And that was legit what they did, because just even reading some of them, it's like, we're going to take such and such vehicle down this windy path in the woods, and we're told that there's a clearing, and in that clearing is a cabin, and that cabin has 2 rooms with 10 children in it. So we're going to go investigate. So that's exactly how they went and found all these families, ours included, in these. So if the school did indeed burn with the record, that room with the records burned, the county still has the records. So where do we get them? Can we go to the county and get them? I mean,
That's what we want to try to uncover this summer is somebody has to have answers, and it's past the statute of limitations. I think it's like 75 years before that, or anything sooner than that, they don't have to share because it's considered, private records or whatever. But it's past 75 years. Our uncle is 92, going to be 92, and he's still around to talk about it. So even though we had him there, we were really hoping that, because he's there, what did they give us? A report card. That's all you have in his entire file is one report card.
right,
And he doesn't even remember getting grades. He said that, I got grades? I don't remember anything like that.
yeah. So, here's the thing though too. So a lot of those social workers came from Lansing, Michigan. So I'm wondering if anybody knows a place out in Lansing that we can go investigate so that we can go and ask some questions. Because in all those counties in that area, there's got to be 100 of them at least.
Yep.
And just kind of going through some of these records here, it's the U.S. Indian Service. So I understand that some of this is, so now we got 3 connecting dots, right? We've got the boarding school, then we've got the county that was involved in getting these children, and then we've got the Department of Indian Affairs. So there's 3 avenues in getting these records, and there's got to be some way that we can get them.
It shouldn't be this hard, right?
No, it should not be this hard.
But it's helping us to understand what our families had gone through and why it's so important that we help find our extended family, get them reconnected with the culture. There's so many of us that are just lost in this world. And it's to no fault of our own. We fell into this American education system that disconnected us from everything. And it's like, how do we find our way back to those traditional ways? So there's not so much disconnect, and there's not so much drug abuse and alcohol abuse and all of these things. And it's really people in search of finding who they are. They don't know who they are. They don't know how to find, they don't know that they're a gift. They don't know what their gifts are. How can we bring that back to them, right? And then there's this feeling of like, I don't know, if you didn't grow up in your culture, you didn't grow up on the reservation, like, who are we to try to say anything, right? Even though like that's who we are. We can't change the fact that our family moved away. We're never going to know the real reason why. Was it for a better job? That's what our guess is. Was it to get away from the social workers and things that were taking our families and children away? Like, we're never going to know. We weren't in those times, but we can tell from these letters that was very probable. That's why they were getting away. They couldn't make ends meet on the allotment lands and things like that. So it's like, we've already reached so many family. I was just at work a couple weeks ago, and I got this email, and their last name was St. Ange. I'm like, wait a minute. What is the likelihood? Like, there's not a lot of just random St. Ange people. And it was like a grant. I had to sign something for a grant or whatever. And I'm just like, I emailed her separately. I'm like, you're not the St. Ange from Sault Ste. Marie, are you? Because that's the tribe I'm from, and I have a lot of St. Ange. And she was like, actually, I'm a Sioux tribe member. I'm like, shut up. It's like all these connections and all these ancestry records and the family tree work that we're doing in Ancestry. Like, we're finding so many more people that are probably feeling the same as us, right? Didn't grow up in those ways, but had our connections, right? Like, I remember going to powwows, and we'd have our ghost feasts, and we knew our relatives, and we'd go up and visit in Sugar Island. My mom lived up there for a while. Like, so we had a connection, but not a strong connection to the culture and our language and our ways and all of that, because we lived here. And I feel like there's a lot of people that live all over the world. They go away for school, they go away for work, and there's just not that connection and community support, right?
Right.
Like, I can't imagine how some families are, especially the military. You don't have that community family support anymore. You're basically like out on your own. And that's got to be so tough. And we're not the only ones feeling this.
Right.
We have family in Kentucky, and our cousin Lori.
And we found a cousin not too long ago in Canada.
Yeah.
On the McLeod side.
Yes.
So he reached out to me, and then so I was like, hey, Christine, we got another cousin. So it's just really, you get a little nugget, and you just keep wanting to dig. You want to find out, who you are, why you're connected, and all that stuff, and how they lived and how we lived. And you know?
Yeah, the McLeod side is who we've lost the most. McLeod, Desjardins, Latours, all of them that came over from Canada. We're trying to find them and get those records. Like we've searched and we found death certificates and birth certificates, but other than that, like we don't know anything else. And trying to find them and connect with them.
Yeah.
We'd love to go back to Canada, but who knows if that's going to be an issue now with. We're not even going to get into what's going on in the world because we'll just talk for another
Yeah.
5-6 hours.
Right.
So there might be a lot more barriers to the work that we're doing right now because of the way things are being run in this country. We'll just leave it at that. We won't even go into details of that. So I'm not letting fear stand in our way. We're still going to go after whatever it is that we can go after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You know, it's kind of like, if you think about it almost, it's kind of like having an understanding of a child that's been adopted, you know,
Yeah.
and not having that child not having known,
Yep.
you know, where they come from. So that feeling of, hey, I'm loved. I know I'm loved. You know, they tell me all the time that I'm loved, but what happened to my family?
Mhm.
What happened to my family? And that constant nagging sensation of, you know, who am I at the core? Did I get this from my grandmother? Did I get it from my grandfather? And why do I feel this way when I look at the sky or I'm out in the woods or I see tradition happen? You know, like even, you know, like what Christine was saying, we didn't have, you know, we went to the powwows and, you know, did all that fun stuff when we went back to Michigan, but why did we feel so much joy when we did? I don't know. We didn't know at the time. We're just now starting to gain that kind of understanding of who we are as a people, and not as a person, but as a people.
Community, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then,
That sense of belonging.
right. So you know, prior to this live tonight, Christine and I were just kind of talking about the the seven.
Seven teachings.
The seven teachings and how is that important to us and to who we are as people. And you know, we came up with a lot of different things for respect and honesty and humility, and what does that mean to us as a generation, you know, who we are today. How does that connect to who our grandparents and our relatives were then? What would they have done? And I think I asked you this question, what would our grandparents have done, or what would our family have done in a situation like this, you know? And
They'd step up and help each other and support
Yeah.
each other. That sense of the village mentality, right? Like we all know, no matter what culture you are, there's that understanding that it takes a village to raise a child, right? That's been lost.
yeah.
We don't have that village and family and community support anymore.
So when we make mistakes, we feel like we're solo, you know, that we're this individual that's not even failing forward in a sense of that community loss. So that's a big search and a big fulfillment aspect of what we're doing, is finding that the balance.
Yeah, I think there's that phrase like breaking the cycle, right? And it's like the more and more I think about it, the more I'm realizing that our ancestors didn't go through the traumas and things that they experienced for us to feel that heaviness and burden of like breaking the cycle. And we're talking about breaking the cycle, we're talking about not continuing things like abuse and alcohol and drugs and just not living your life in a good way, right? And I'm trying to rephrase how we think about this breaking the cycle, because the more I'm like in it and like fighting triggers and things like that in our own life with different traumas and things that happen, not with just our family, but their friends and government as a whole, right? It's like, it's a burden, it's a heaviness. And like when we don't reach the goals or things that we're working towards, we're feeling like this heaviness and failure. And life is circular, it's not linear. And it's okay to not reach your goals when you intended to. What we need to think about is like what Penny just said, right? Like, how do we find that balance? How do we walk on a balanced path rather than thinking of this burden of breaking the cycle and then feeling like we failed because we had so much going on in our life and we just got so overwhelmed and now we feel like we've taken 10 steps back. It's not 10 steps back. it's the acknowledgement that, whoa, okay, that happened and I reacted in this way. Why is that happening? It's not my like job or responsibility to like fix things in the past that led to me to be this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we think about like how we raised our kids and things that we grew up in our family, and I know other families go through this too, right? You might have had like a abuse happening in your family or some kind of violence, right? And so when we're growing up and we're establishing our relationships, like nobody says, "Oh, I want to be in an abusive relationship," right? But
Mm-hmm.
happened to both of us, right?
Right.
And so you're like trying to find the next best thing and trying to move forward and live life in a good way. And then life happens and you have no control over that. But yet we still feel this heavy burden and like, God, I failed again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of looking at life that way, when things like that happen, it's like just take a step back and breathe and be like, what can we do to find that balance in life again? It's not a burden, it's not a responsibility. Just take a breather and give ourselves grace. And you said it so well. I wrote it down. How do we find and walk a balanced path?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to take a step back. It's not really a step back. It's okay to just let things happen and learn and grow from the things that we don't like that happen, right?
Right.
How can we best support everybody when somebody does take a step that doesn't lead them in a good way? How can we support them and lift them up instead of bringing them down and be like, God, did you hear so-and-so did this and they did that? Like this judgmental thing going on in this world, it's so damaging and it's so hurtful. How can we just love and support each other?
Mm-hmm.
Mom said, it's called your spiritual connection. Your blood knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Mike says, that's because we have a spoken culture, not written.
Yeah.
We must reach out and speak to our elders for sure. And
Yeah.
I am so grateful that we do have elders that know and remember, but we also have elders who have been to the boarding schools. Most of them, in fact, have been to the boarding schools and they just don't talk about it, right? And so there's a piece of them that needs to heal and acknowledge what they went through, because that's helping us heal in that acknowledgement, right? And as hard as it was, like with my Uncle Francis, he never told anybody. I don't even think his kids knew the extent of the things that happened to him in that school. And I'm not sure where they're at with releasing the interviews with the National Indian Boarding School. I know it's going to become public. My uncle did sign the waiver that his interview would become public.
Mm-hmm.
And as hard as those stories are to hear, it helps us heal because it helps us understand what happened, right? And oh man, it's just so much. I'm so grateful we have these elders. And I'm like, when I'm a student at UWGB and we have this elder in residence program where elders from different tribal communities come in and they sit and they mentor our students and share stories. And I love that so much. Like, I'm kind of sad thinking about not being there in May. And I've told the staff, like, I'm going to be back. I'll probably just come all the time for the elder hours because you just can't go anywhere and get that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, it's like, man, can we just rewind the clock, you know, like maybe 30 years so we can like go to grandma's like every weekend and
Just
sit
ask.
and hear those stories and ask those questions. Because the more we talked about things, and mom said this too, when she'd share the language with grandma, she'd be like, oh, I know what that word means, right? Like we could have nurtured her in helping to bring back those memories and stories that she knew of growing up. We didn't hear a lot of, I don't know, we heard some things, but
Yeah. Not enough.
not what we were really looking for, right?
No, and I don't even think we paid much attention to, unfortunately, you know, being naive and young, that it mattered in the wider scope of things, you know, because truth be told, we weren't taught that when an elder speaks, you don't, you know, in that respect. I know, like, you know, don't talk back to your parents and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we learned that, but I don't think we really understood what it meant to listen to the tale that is being, you know, brought down from generation to generation. You know, what was the story and why was the story the way it was, and so we can teach and educate our children.
Pass that down, right?
Yeah, and I think we just we didn't know, and that's the part that really sucks, that we just didn't know.
And then growing up in Green Bay, far from the culture, I mean, I still feel that disconnect. And that's why we're so eager to just get back and talk with people and connect with our community. And who knows, maybe we'll move back.
Yeah, maybe.
Although I don't know if I like the winters and the ice storms and all
No.
that other stuff. It's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, we went to Sugar Island, right? And we were trying to find the headstones of the cemetery. Mom, I mean, you guys heard the story probably twice now already about the moose, right? So Penny's like, yeah, I want to live off the grid and live in the wilderness, and oh, I love nature and all these things, until she hears the moose. I've changed my mind.
Yeah, and you just got too many damn mosquitoes.
Oh gosh, they were terrible.
They were awful.
Jeans, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, hood over Chris's poor bald head, even with the hoodie on, like, we have bug spray, right? And he just got eaten alive. All of us. Like, I don't care how many layers you have on.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way to control that.
Yeah.
I feel like, how did they, back in the day, handle that?
I don't know.
Or is it because of weather changes and everything else that mosquitoes are so rapid now? I don't know. It's insane.
You just never know.
She always wanted me to speak the language and to her, and she would sometimes remember what I was saying. Yeah, that's what we were saying. Like, she'd say something, and I remember Mom saying, like, Grandma thought she was getting yelled at, and he was saying daughter to her, right? Or saying something like that. Because he's typing something. So, yeah, and the more we learn about the language, it's not just a word. Like, English words, to me, they're just like words, but there's no like meaning behind it. Where you think about other indigenous language, like there's a meaning behind it. Like, no one's ever going to remember how to say this, and it took me a really, 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 really long time to say this word. But the longest word in the Ojibwe language is blueberry pie. And I had to, like, one of the elders, our Menominee elders came in, Napus, he was like, you got to think about it in the section. So how you say blueberry pie, because they didn't have a word for that. They didn't have blueberry pie, but they had blueberries. It's like blueberries that are smashed and boiled and put together between two pieces of bread that are facing each other is the Ojibwe word. And how you say it is, I gotta think about a second now. Mini bash kamina sigani batoyan goisa jigani bagwajigan. That's blueberry pie. That's blueberry pie. Yeah. Oh yeah, Donna. She was saying Donnie. Sheesh. For daughter, yeah. So, but it has a deeper meaning. And the more we learn about our language, the more you feel connected to everything, because it connects you to all life, not just like people or objects. It's like the spiritual connection to everything, because we're all connected. When we say all our relatives, we're not just talking about human relatives. All of our relatives, our plant relatives, our relation to the water, to the animals, to all life. Mm-hmm. And you don't get that same understanding and meaning in just an English word, like phone and marker and bottle. Like, well, what does that really mean, right? There's no like connection or understanding or relationship with any of the words, where indigenous languages have that. Yeah. And even just like hearing it, like when we got our names, it's just like, I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah. Like it just draws you back in. Yeah. I wouldn't know how to explain it. I don't know. You know, I was reading a book, and I just pulled it up here, The History of the Ojibwe People. It's a really good book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. But I was looking for a phrase, as Christine was talking, that is kind of the premise of the book, and why, the author, I think Warren, I think it's Warren something or other, I forget now, but it says in here, and it's talking about the change in the world that was happening at the time when he was writing it. So he says change was coming upon them so fast, in them meaning the Ojibwe people, that their history will forever be a blank. And soon it would be too late to save the traditions of their forefathers from total oblivion. So it was super important for him to connect with all the elders. And even though every elder has their own story, the premise was the same. So you could talk to 5 different elders and get 5 different stories,
but the bottom line always remained the same. The teaching remained the same. So he went around and talked to all these elders during different times in their lives and compiled all of this stuff and put in this book. It is super cool to read it and to understand, kind of what Christine was saying, that there's connections, there's purpose to everything, purpose to the word, why it was spoken, how it was spoken, and who it was spoken to. It all mattered, and those are the traditions and stuff that we wish we would have been, a part of, but that we're constantly seeking. So just thought I'd share that book.
And it's never too late. I feel like some of us are like, oh, well, I'm in our 50s, and who are we to try to learn all this now? It's never too late. There's no like timeline of when's the right time to connect. Obviously, at birth would be the right time to jump in and connect and know it all, right? But the fact is we live all over the world. And so what can we do as grandparents now, right? To help our grandchildren learn even bits and pieces as they go along, so that hopefully they carry on some of these traditions too, right? My mom has always said grandma's biggest worry was that the language and culture was going to die with her, right? And we're proof that it's not going to. Like, that's what we're aligned to do. And that's why we were brought together to do this, not knowingly. Like, we started with ancestry work, right? And then here we are delving into all of the boarding school stuff. But by understanding and learning about it all, we're helping others to reconnect in that way too. Not just our family, but other Indigenous people and even those who want to be allies, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what was the name of that book?
The book is The History of the Ojibwe People. Let's see, second edition. And it is by, let me get to the front of it here. What?
Oh, it keeps going back.
Introduction, contents. Oh, it just had it. Darn it. Sorry.
Gotta love technology, but hate it at the same time, right?
Yeah, History of the Ojibwe People, second edition by William Warren. Very, very good book. I loved it. I read it a few times, and I gained something more from it each time I read it, because you're in a different place, and your understanding, or our understanding of our culture and our people is different each time we talk. So the other book,
This is a hefty book. All of these little tabs are connections and relatives.
Yeah.
All the way through the book. Penny's done some very deep research into this. So it's the Bureau of Indian Affairs Special Agent Horace Durant's 1907 Durant Roll Field Notebooks, and it's by Raymond Lance. It's taken a long time, and I think we're still working through like decoding this, because there's like different like page numbers.
yeah,
And there's this book you can get on microfilm too. It's just, they're really hard to go through and read, but it lists like who was living in that area, who their neighbors were, who their relatives were, who their kids were. There's Indigenous names in here. So a lot of the students, when they went to the boarding schools, were given an English name, biblical name.
So a lot I found in this book. So for example, if we went with, let's just pick whoever I put right here. So Peter John, which I just learned was Peter Pine. So that's pretty cool. And we have some pictures that were in the Sault Ste. Marie News, the newspaper there. But anyway, so it's got Angeline Williams, age 31. So, but before her name is 4-34-1-1. And what that correlates to is her father, who is listed on the rolls as 4-34. So every instance of a new numeric is the next generation. Kind of like if you were to print out a descendancy, it would be 1, and then 1 dash, 2, 1 dash 3, 1 dash 4 for the children. But that is how it's listed in this book. In addition, sometimes it'll say C26-30. And when it says like C26-30, that means that you have to go in this book and find 26-30 and see how that individual in that family is connected to another family.
And there's no index, so you can't just like go to the
No.
back and look at and find out what page. You literally have to go page by
Here's
page.
my index where I wrote down, because there's so many connecting rods and so many connecting points in each one of these families. So I'll say 3-17 is on page 189, you know, so that when I'm going through this, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I know I came across that. Okay, so it's 3-17. Oh, yeah, it's on page 189. So then I go to 189, and then boof, I've got another family member that married into the family. So it's crazy how it works. But when you take the time to go through it and understand it, when it says it's got the field notes in it, it explains the letters to. The reason why it's called the Durant roll is because Horace Durant is the one that put all this information together. He was somebody the United States government paid to go out into the lands and find all these people and say, okay, this is the closest to the truth that I can find. So anyway, it had, the field notes are things that he wrote. So if he talked to an elder or to a chief, and the chief was part of a Saginaw Nation, he would put in there that the chief was part of the Saginaw Nation and he's legit and he told me this. So, you know, those kinds of pieces you'll read in there too. So that's really interesting stuff in there to read. And he also puts things like wife was married twice.
Or second marriage.
Right,
Yeah.
and second husband not known, or second husband Saginaw Nation dead. So that was how he wrote it in there. But it's pretty interesting once you get a hold of all the information. It's like, oh my God, I can't put this down.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm all over in the book, and why we have so many paper
I
clips in
know.
there.
And it's complicated in our family too, because both of our mom's parents are from the same tribe. So it was like Sault Ste. Marie from the Canadian side and from the US side before colonial borders. And so there was a lot of, like, if you look at a map of the traditional Ojibwe nations, it's into Canada, Michigan, Minnesota, North Dakota, you know, so there's a wide range of Ojibwe, and that was before colonial borders. And so our relatives are Canadian as well. And it's finding those connections. And so that Durant Field Notebook is so beneficial because a lot of the relatives were living close to the borders, and their names changed too. So that was another thing that happened. Like, they might have had a traditional indigenous name, but then when they came over the border, there was a doctor who would give them, you know, you pay him $5, which is probably a lot at that time, and he would give you a new name. And or you were in the boarding school and you got a new name, right? And so some of the census records that we're looking at, it's like we're seeing the English name, but this Durant note has the native names in it. And so now we're finally making those connections, like, oh, this person was here and that was the chief and this is the name. And
Yeah.
it's been a lot of work and a lot of research, and I don't know that Penny ever sleeps.
Yeah. For you.
She just keeps digging into it.
I know.
You definitely spend a lot more time.
Yeah.
I think when we originally first started this ancestry work, and she gave me access to Ancestry, she's like, I'm sorry, you're never going to sleep again. And she wasn't wrong. There were nights, and I think it's happened recently too, where it's like, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's like, do I even bother trying to sleep? Because like, you find one name and you find that other connection. We're still like pulling up the census records, and we're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That person is married to this person, but they married to Joseph and that other person married to Joseph. So like on both sides of it, it's insane. We can't even try to understand it and explain it. But is that the recent healer, 2025? So I don't know if a lot of you know this. Oh, it doesn't have the Escanaba one on there. So in Escanaba, so we have a tribal clinic there too. So George Slagasige is our traditional healer that we see up in Sault Ste. Marie, and he goes to St. Ignace, and he goes to Manastique. Last month, I think it was, I don't know if it was February or March now, but Escanaba has a clinic now, and he actually went there one day. So I'm hoping maybe his hours aren't extended right now, and I'm sure with him just being one person in our tribe doing this work, it's hard to connect with them. But for all of our relatives out there, if we find out that he's going to Escanaba like consistently, I think they would go if they knew we had people. Just in our family alone, our immediate family,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're gonna get the people if it's only like 2 hours away,
Right.
rather than going 3 hours to Manistee, or he goes to Munising. We have tribal lands up there too, or going all the way to Sault Ste. Marie,
Yeah.
which we don't like. Oh yeah, Mom said just opened last month. Well, Mom, we just saw his is that May schedule?
Yeah.
May 2025, and it has Sault Ste. Marie, St. Agnes, Manistee,
Immunising.
Munising. So it doesn't even have Hessel on here. So again, I know he's overbooked, and he's from the Canadian side as well.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, you can go to the Sault Ste. Marie Chippewa Tribe website, and it has the calendar of events, and you can find out what days and what times he's at certain clinics for anyone in the family who wants to go. He sees anybody who's Indigenous, and we've even been told, like, if we bring our spouse who's not Native, they'll see him too. So they're pretty open. I know they fill up fast,
Oh, they
especially
do.
with him being one person. We used to have a couple more, and they've gone on and gone to other tribes, and it's hard to find him, right? Andy
Yeah.
was babbling. What does he do? Oh, the traditional healer. So like, he'll give us our names, both of us. Well, Penny received it from Gerard, and then I got mine. I think it was from Joe Surratt. I don't know, Mom, if you're still on, if you remember. I think it was Joe. So Jeananne, Harlan was the one before. So there was Gerard, and there was Joe was before him, and Harlan was that one too. Yeah, Harlan's passed away now too. So they go into ceremony basically, and they're able to see what's going on in your body and what traditional medicines you need to help with the healing process with that. So there's a lot of things that they do. Like I said, given names. I took Millie there, and she got a name for Gerard, and she still talks about it. I just love that so much that she has her name.
Yeah.
We got to get Bo there now. He would be the next one. I think he would just love that, getting his name too. Oh, Joe was Harlan's cousin. Yeah, that's right. Yep. So yeah, after you watch our videos, like, give us feedback. Let us know what else you want to know, how we can help you on your journey, either as an Indigenous person or as an ally. We're here to help support.
Yep.
When we become official, right? We're still working. We keep saying we're the beginning stages, and it's hard with life,
It
right?
is.
To just
It is hard.
get into it and do it all. But we're still doing the work behind the scenes. Let us know how we can help you all. So I guess we'll end. We've
Yep.
talked way past our time,
Yep.
but we started late, so it's all right. So y'all have a good night.
Miigwech.